Hey WBE fans, we're back again for another week of Pickems. I am your host, Choice CJ, and I am here with my good pal General Tarheel. What's up, Ben?
None much, CJ. Just here to bring another amazing Pickems that y'all continuously support so much, and we appreciate it very much. Your support and feedback is outrageous. No dislikes on the last video, CJ. What do you think of that?
Poggers.
Big poggers in chat. There was some feedback, of course, because we did have a few mistakes on the graphics. We do apologize about that. We're going to try to keep it the best we can every week. We're just trying to bring you guys the best content we can possible, because y'all deserve it with how much you show love to the whole entire league. The WBE appreciates it greatly.
We do have a pretty exciting announcement, though, for a feature that's been highly requested. We are now going to start running fan polls. That's right. This has been one of the most asked about things in the comment sections of our videos. We are going to be posting fan polls on Twitter for each of the matchups each and every week. So, a couple of details on that. For this week, week number 3, the polls went out today at 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you go down to the description below, click the link for the WBE Twitter, you can go, and the most recent tweets are all going to be votes for which coach you prefer in which matchup. So make sure you go vote for that. It's going to close 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. The results for that will be showing up on next week's graphics. They will not be on this week's graphics because we're recording this ahead of the time that these polls are going live. But on a going forward basis, we will be posting these Twitter polls on Tuesdays at noon Eastern. Those will be open for 24 hours, and then they will be included on these slides going forward. So do hope you're looking forward to that. If you want to catch the Twitter polls each week, the best way to do that is to follow the WBE Twitter, and that way you can get notified when these polls go live. So hope you're looking forward to that. Yes, it's true that there's going to be 2 weeks of games the analysts have that the fans don't have, but we can make some determination at the end of the season based on who has the best overall winning percentage, and that'll just decide who's the king of Pickems for this season of WBE. So hope that all makes sense. Hope you guys are excited. With that said, this is now a good opportunity for us to look at the Week 2 results. Ben, why don't you give us your analysis?
My analysis of the Week 2 results. Well, honestly, our analysts went crazy. It was kind of insane. Not like a lot of people got majority of their games right. To be fair, there wasn't that many like upsets or Cinderella stories in this week, I believe. It was kind of straightforward. Even our top analyst for the week was Jacob, as always, with a 14-0 on his pick'ems. That's very impressive. And then we still managed to get 2 13-1s as well. And then a lot of people averaging around 11 and stuff like that for the amount of correct games, which is insane. And majority of people still getting their lock-ins right as well. Pretty crazy, CJ.
Yeah, the only person who missed the lock was Aaron 2 for 20, trying to pick Old Man Tup over Coach MV. Fortunately, didn't work out for him, but you got to admire how bold Aaron is trying to be with these locks of the week. Yeah, like you said, no major upsets here. The only one that's like you could even maybe consider one is the Toronto Togekiss beating the Rochester Rhydons. And the only reason for that is because technically more people picked the Rhydons, but it was like 6-4. It wasn't like it was lopsided like a bunch of the Week 1 results were. So, I think like what you said, it was a pretty good showing from the analysts. Lots of correct predictions going into Week 2.
For sure. It looks like everyone's going to be on the ball from here on out for the rest of the season. But I really want to see some games that catches everyone off guard. You know, some people like Aaron might get paid off for those kind of crazy picks that people aren't expecting.
For sure. All right. Without further ado, let's move on from week number 2 and start looking at our week number 3 games. I'm going to kick things off with the game between the Maryland Terrapins, coached by Under the Radar, and the Seattle Sea Kings, coached by Jodor. So this is a pretty interesting matchup, because for a team like Joe's that doesn't actually have 1,000 arrows resist, I think he actually has some pretty decent responses to Zygarde 50%. There's some really bulky Pokemon like Venusaur, Donphan, Granbull that can all take 1,000 arrows relatively well, despite not actually resisting them. He's got double Ice Shard priority from Sneasel and Donphan to threaten that thing. So yeah, it's a very funny situation where like Zygarde, if you just look at like a resistance chart, I think would be pretty good, but I think it's gonna have a slightly harder time breaking the traditional way. Maybe he brings like a cheeky set like a like Coil or Camouflage or something like that. Camouflage being able to make him a normal type and prevent him from getting 4x super effective hits from the Ice Shard. But we'll have to see. I'm sure Kelly will come up with something. He's very creative. Because of all of those really bulky mons on Joe's side, I am expecting Kelly to bring a very offensive like Darmanitan and Circuitry combination. So like a Bandit or Scarf Darmanitan to apply lots of pressure and lure in something like Jellicent. And then if he can U-turn on that Jellicent switch in, he can use Circuitry to pressure. The Circuitry will probably have to pack like Hidden Power Psychic coverage for Venusaur, which could beat Circuitry a lot of the other times. But I think that's his best way to apply pressure. Like, Superior isn't going to do that much this game because of Mega Venusaur and Scizor being there, both being quad resist to Leaf Storm. And like I already explained, Zygarde doesn't look quite as scary on paper. I actually like Mesprit in this matchup quite a bit. It's going to be very important for breaking down that Mega Venusaur, like I said, and it is a ground resist to take on Donphan, or ground immunity to take on Donphan, which is another annoying bulky Pokemon. Melodic on Kelly's side is also going to be really important in this game. It's pressured a lot by Infernape. To a lesser extent, it's pressured by Sneasel, but Mega Aggron is also very good for Sneasel. The thing that'll be tough is that anytime that Melodic tries to switch in on Infernape, he can just U-turn on into the Mega Venusaur. So it's going to be like a pretty much a kind of a bulk battle. I expect this to be a longer one. I am going to be picking Kelly to come out on top. How's your vote looking, Ben?
I had to go with my boy Kelly. It's just how it goes for me. I'm actually going to lock in on that one as well. When I'm looking at it, compared to also just in the previous 2 weeks, how well Kelly has done being 2-0 right now. Jordan also being 0-2. Like, when you look at the matchup and there's the 2 previous weeks, I think it's definitely in the Torterra's favor for under the radar. And once again, like you said, Darmanitan plus Circuitry, that's going to be really difficult for the Seakings, I feel like. And it's just going to be able to wall break, and Kelly uses his team just so well from what I've seen in the past 2 weeks. And just hearing him team build, he's just so confident in everything on this team.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, the records as we get later into the season are going to be playing a bigger role in terms of these selections, not just the team matchup. But the team matchups are much more fun to talk about, which is why you'll hear us going into detail on this each week.
For the next game, we have the Sin City Scizors, coached by Patty Trills, going up against the Pittsburgh Piratas and Old Man Tup. Now, when I'm looking at this matchup, I see 2 important Megas that are going to have a big aspect in this game. Mega Alakazam, of course, is slightly scared by the Dark-type and Tyranitar on the Pittsburgh team, but even though Tyranitar is an amazing Pursuit Trapper and everything, a Focus Blast is really helpful for the Mega Alakazam, so whether or not they can hit it, that's going to be a little iffy, but the Scizors have an amazing time in dealing with it with Pokemon such as like Incineroar, U-Turn Chip, Lando T pressures it really well. Primeape is an amazing fighting type to have versus it. Even though Tyranitar might be Spit F bulky, Bombay is still going to do a good amount of damage. All of the above. Like, the Scizors are going to be able to chip down Tyranitar well enough to where Zam can definitely potentially just like sweep in the end as long as they scout for something like Scarf Mismagius. And as for the Piratas, as long as they have Mega Charizard X, they're going to be looking pretty well. They just have to be aware of all the contact damage they're able to take this game, not only from a move like Flare Blitz that Charizard X normally runs, but from Druddigon, Rough Skin, Ferrothorn, Iron Barbs, and Rocky Helmet on either of those 2 Pokemon, Lando T or Seismitoad. That's going to be a big pain for Charizard X. But as long as you're able to watch out for that, maybe potentially just have Roost in order to deal with the longevity of Mega Charizard X, I feel like it can still put in a lot of damage because only real counters are like a really bulky Seismitoad and then like Intimidate, Incineroar, and Lando T. Double Intimidate Pivot's going to be really annoying for Zardex. I can't agree on that, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised if we see a special Zardex. If I'm going to be completely honest, I would definitely catch the Patty Trills off guard and be able to do well, because you can also run HP Cross at that point in order to hit Seismitoad, which is a possibility. Or you just be like Sunny Day Solar Beam as well. But for other Pokemon in the Pittsburgh Piratas, Rotom Wash kind of struggles, mainly because when it comes to its 2 stabs, it gets walled out by both Ferrothorn and Seismitoad, meaning that it can't just run both Hidden Power Fire and Hidden Power Grass. It's got to decide from one or the other, which is pretty unfortunate. But Rotom Wash is still going to be pretty helpful as a pivot. Also, it's good versus Lando T because of its immunity, but because of all the potential immunities on the Pittsburgh team, I'm feeling like a Gravity Lando T is going to be very helpful here. You're able to get rid of the potential Magnet Rise on Klefki, the Levitate on Mismagius to where you're allowed to just hit it with an ICQ because Mismagius doesn't have the best physically defensive bulk. And then, of course, you're hitting Rotom Wash super effectively on its electric side because it will lose its Levitate immunity. And yeah, you also get to hit Glide Score, but you probably prefer to have like a mix Hidden Power Ice on Lando T for that. This matchup is pretty well balanced between the two of them. And even though they have both amazing hazard stackers on each side, they also all have defog available to themselves. So it's really just who's going to be more persistent and going to defog first in the hazard game. But with the really strong pivot in the Sin City Scizors, I feel like they're going to have the advantage in this game. That's why I decided to pick the Sin City Scizors along with majority of the analysts, it looks like.
Yeah, I like this as a potentially very offensive game, like you said, with Spike Stack and some really offensive options like Megazam, Lando, Charizard, all being able to apply tremendous offensive pressure throughout this game. Yeah, Patty burned me last week. He pulled off the upset week 1 versus Gator, but then lost last week versus Cybertron, but I'm hoping that he turns things around this week versus Tup once again. For our next game, we are going to be looking at the Chicago Bouffalants, coached by Sacred, and the Durham Druddigons, coached by 6-Foot Hacks, aka Leo. So it's a pretty interesting matchup. I think there's good threats on both sides. I think that Leo's Muck, as a lowland Muck, is going to be pretty important in this game, because it checks a lot of important threats like Espeon and things like that. It's going to switch into a Moongus. It's also his best way of dealing super effective damage to Tapu Fini, which is the most annoying Pokemon to the Mega Lopunny that Leo has. Mega Lopunny is definitely looking pretty potent in this game otherwise. Like other potential switch-ins are like a Fizdef Amoonguss or a Fizdef Arcanine. But I think that Tapu Fini is just a little bit more reliable given that it's got a better bulk and better typing than both of those two Mons. One thing that looks a little bit threatening that you might have slept on otherwise is like Scarf Durant. I really like Scarf Durant because it does have the option to outspeed and revenge kill basically any set of Mega Aerodactyl. Can also outspeed Espeon, outspeed Scarf Mienshao, Scarf Kyurem. Scarf Kyurem in particular looks really scary just because I think the ice switch-ins are kind of limited on Leo's side. So being able to take out something that's like a Kyurem that's spamming Ice Beam is going to be pretty nice. Yeah, for all of those other Pokemon, like maybe a defensive Assault Vest Reuniclus is going to be a good option. So that could be a pivot into Espeon, Mienshao, even like that Scarf Kyurem like I was mentioning. Could, if it's got the Assault Vest, it could be bulky enough to take 2 Scarf hits, throw off a Focus Blast or a Psychic, and then switch on out into something like the Manaphy. The one offensive threat that I am most scared of on Sacred's side is Arcanine. The fire switch-ins are really just limited to Manaphy. Like, it's true Dragonite's there, but you can easily run HP Ice or Dragonite. If you, hit it with a Wild Charge, a Flare Blitz to take out the multi-scale, then you can use Wild Charge to hit that Manaphy if he chooses to switch in the Manaphy. That's, the only other fire resist on the team. So, a 3 attacks, Morning Sun, Life Orb set from Arcanine, I think, would be especially good. On Leo's side, like I said, Muck's key. Manaphy, I think, is going to be very key defensively, which is too bad because I think a simple Tail Glow Manaphy would be really good here. You could run Psyche MZ to hit the Amoonguss really hard, and that's probably his best way of hitting Tapu Fini. I guess you could also run Energy Ball. It's just a question of whether you want to run Z Rain Dance in the last slot or you want to run that Energy Ball. But yeah, I think Manaphy is a little bit too pressured defensively this week. So, all that being said, I am going to be voting in favor of Leo. He has not dropped a game yet this season. It looks like you're voting for Leo as well.
Yeah, I definitely had to go with Leo here. Not only is he my boy, even though he's a bot sometimes, but Reuniclus, you didn't really talk about that. No Dark type on the Bouffalants. Can literally run Acid Armor, Calm Mind, Recover, Psyshock, Psychic, and probably just win at one point in the game.
Yeah, true that.
So the Bouffalants really have to be aware of that because that is what that Mon is known to do. Everyone has been swept by Reuniclus once in their life, and if you say you haven't, then you're a liar. Alright, going into the next match, we have the Chicago Cubchoos, coached by Galactic Elliot, going against the Florida Gators, coached by It's Gator. And when I'm looking at this, Heatran's matchup is kind of nutty to me. It's doing very well right here. You can just run it kind of especially offensive and have Toxic for Mantine if you really want to. Or you can run an AV set to help you versus a little Ninetales, Chandelure, Porygon Z, stuff like that. And then have Hidden Power Electric in order to hit the Mantine. But because the Mantine's really strong Spit F bulk, HP Electric still isn't going to be doing too much. But Heatran overall is going to be pretty difficult for the Cubchoos to kill, I feel like. And Gators could definitely be able to abuse that. Heatran could definitely be just the most solid Stealth Rocker in this matchup potentially. Also, Heatran gets enough chip to where Zora has a really solid cleanup. Like, it can just run Dragon Z if it doesn't want to lock into Outrage in order for it just like one shot a defensive Mega Ampharos if it really wants to. And then, of course, just its coverage helps it versus everything. Getting the Fighter coverage to bop Porygon Z and Stack Attacka. Getting the Electric coverage, of course, to help versus Mantine as well as the Stab. Zora is just going to be very helpful, and I feel like cleanup duty is just going to be its job here. While I'm still sticking to the offense for the Gators, Mega Heracross just gets a kill. It literally just clicks Rock Blast because everything that can outspeed on switch in for Mega Heracross the following turn dies to just clicking Rock Blast once. Chandelure, Mantine, Alolan Ninetales, Scolipede, they all drop. Anything else that switches in, Mega Heracross can outspeed the following turn, and it just goes down once again. Like, you're not going to hard switch Porygon Z into Mega Heracross anyways, so that's why I'm making that statement as well. But literally just Rock Blast plus Close Combat just blows back the Cup Juice, and it's just going to be so difficult for them to deal with, I feel like. But Scolipede, I feel like, is the best win con for the Cup Juice. It is pretty nice for potential sweeping. It just has to either bring Substitute for Pyukumuku to help out with that, or they just have to try and get rid of that as soon as they can, because otherwise Scolipede does have pretty strong sweeping potential, because it's going to be hard for the Gators to have a solid Scarfer, and once again, Scolipede's just able to protect or stay behind a Substitute just to get the bonus speed to where a Scarfer is not even going to help you revenge it, and you need the necessary fat in order to save it. But Gators' team kind of lacks in that department. A really bulky Mega Heracross could definitely save him, but Pyukumuku, I think, is the only other way apart from that, because Heatran and Garbodor die into a +1 or +2 EQ, or even probably a neutral EQ from for Heatran, definitely. And Celebi, of course, is going down to any Bug Step, or even just a +2 Poison Jab for sure. So the Gators have to be aware of Scolipede, but other than that, they have a very solid matchup, and I had to go with Gator and his squad this week, as well as a majority of the other coaches. We have 2 for the Cup Choose, I feel like, so that's pretty good. What do you think, CJ?
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a contender for Game of the Week for next week, just because of the tear that Elliott's on to start this season, and then Gator, just with the caliber of player that he is, and kind of rebounding after his unfortunate Week 1 performance. Heatran, like you said, is very pressured to deal with that Scolipede. It is nice offensively, but I think it's going to be forced into maybe a defensive role, which is a bit of a bummer. I actually like a Subtoxic Protect Heatran this week, but I don't know that if he is going to be able to bring that. He might have to bring Shuka-Berry. I'm going in favor of Gator as well. Nothing against Elliott, but I think Gator's now finding his groove. And maybe another option could be just like a Spikes lead Scolipede. I guess it's worth mentioning because of Gator's overall weakness to hazards. The next game is going to be between the San Diego Chimchargers, coached by Lord Envy, and the New York Noibats, coached by Mewtwo fan Nate. So this is a tough game to call for Nate. I like a bunch of his offensive win cons, but the offensive win cons that I'm looking at are kind of pressured to be defensive answers to some of Envy's biggest threats. So one example is that a Shell Smash Cloyster actually looks really nice if you can eliminate Registeel, which isn't going to be too hard to do. Like, just throw a Choice Specs on Swellow. It can spam Boom Burst for days and do a lot of damage to that incoming Registeel. Or if he can catch it on a prediction and go for Heat Wave, that's even better. But I actually like the following moveset. I like Shell Smash, Liquidation, Poison Jab, and Recover. So that Poison Jab is going to help out a lot versus the Azumarill. It's also going to deal super effective damage to like Sceptile and stuff that otherwise resist the Liquidation. The reason I like Recover is because like a Scarf Ditto should not be able to really deal with that kind of Cloyster set, because it's not going to take a lot of damage from either Poison Jab or from Liquidation, and you can kind of outstall it with Recover. Either it runs out of PP or you can kill it first. The problem with that is that Cloyster is also the best check that Nate has to a Belly Drum Azumarill. So he might be forced to bring a physically defensive Cloyster to deal with Azumarill. Another option for dealing with that Azumarill is Hydreigon. I really like Hydreigon with like a Z Hyper Beam or Z Belch set. I know that that's kind of spicy, but those are both going to be really good ways to eliminate like a Belly Drum Azumarill, because it's going to be able to take the +6 Aqua Jet since it resists. The problem is that Hydreigon, I feel like, is pressured into a defensive role to check the Victini that Envy has on his team. Like a Roselli Berry Hydreigon is like sort of his only real response to Victini. It's true that like Victini can easily U-turn out on that and bring in something more threatening like Togekiss or Azumarill. But like you don't have any other answers for Victini at all. Like Delphox is not a resist, Simipour is not a resist. So like that's kind of what I'm getting at in terms of like he has some potential win cons, but I think they're too pressured to deal with some of Envy's threats. Maybe he can come up with something that I'm not seeing in order to deal with those mons in other ways. But I think that Envy's potential win cons are just a little bit better than Nate's in this game. So I'm going to be going in favor of Envy. I'm actually locking him in versus Nate, unfortunately, for him. What do you think, Ben?
I had to go with Envy here. Yeah, the matchup's kind of in his favor, and in terms of just overall performance as so far in the season, the Chimchargers are proving to do just better than the Noibats at the moment. But you were talking about something that Nate might see that you're not, and he might bring that. Nate's known for a few heat sets, so there's definitely a chance that he brings something that catches Envy off guard and can definitely benefit to his own side. I'm definitely not going to keep Nate too low on the count because he has been doing pretty well lately, in all honesty. Even though he has had those losses, unfortunately, and he is at 0-2. Those reverse only 6-foot hacks and under the radar. Very solid coaches themselves. He's just had his tough starts to the season when it comes to coach matchups and everything, so I feel like he'll blow up the 1 point. That might be versus Envy this week.
Yeah, you're right. It's been a brutal schedule.
In the next game, we have the Bristol City Blazekins, coached by Game Boy Luke, going up against the Melbourne Rotoms, coached by Cybertron. When I'm looking at this, the Melbourne Rotoms have a very strong offensive matchup. I'm looking at an offensive Rotom Heat just blowing back the Bristol City Blazekins. The only resist to the 2 stabs in Fire and Electric on the Bristol City Blazekins squad is Drampa, which honestly, if you already run HP Ice just to hit like Lando Eye like super effectively, then you're already getting damage on Drampa as well. So that's really helpful right there. The only 2 like neutral hits are Lando Eye and Scrafty, both of which though you don't really want to switch in on Rotom Heat, purely because Scrafty is probably most likely his defensive check to Mamoswine. If it's not Mega Scizor or Primarina, both are either way pretty helpful for the team. You also don't want to risk a Will-O-Wisp on Lando Eye. And Necrozma, I feel like, is going to be an important sweeping Pokemon for this game, so it's probably not going to be bulky enough to deal with an offensive Rotom, especially taking like a Life Orb Overheat, for example. That'd be doing way too much damage to an offensive Necrozma. So I feel like it's just going to be difficult for Game Boy Luke to be able to deal with that Rotom Heat this game. And even after that, you have a Kartana, which is very threatening in the back for sweeping. Once again, if you're able to just weaken like the Scizor, I'm pretty sure Kartana can just about win. It deals with everything pretty well, and the lack of speed that the Blazekins have, apart from Aerodactyl, is pretty beneficial to the Melbourne Rotoms, and I don't even know if Aerodactyl technically is the best matchup here, going up against Pokemon such as Mamoswine and Mega Slowbro, and even Lycanroc Migday having the, of course, the Accelerock to hit the Aerodactyl. So one less check in order to hit Kartana with like Fire Fang or something of the sort is really beneficial to the Rotoms, and they can definitely abuse like a late game Kartana sweep for sure with the Beast Boost. And lastly, of course, I would really want to see a Natural Gift Fire Mamoswine just to hit the Mega Scizor super effectively and catch it really off guard. If that's his check, of course, there's the chance that's just an Intimidate bulky Scrafty with Drain Punch or something of the sort, maybe a bulky Primarina. But I would just like to see it just to get the Scizor anyways, because majority of the time, I feel like Game Boy Luke would want to bring Mega Scizor. It just helps versus the Mamoswine, the Acelgor, helps versus Conkeldurr a little bit more. And for the Blazekins, I really only see their main win con being in like a Calm Mind, Autotomized Necrozma. I feel like that could be very dangerous, maybe even weakness policy, but you cannot run Necrozma bulky this week because you're already going to be running like a bulky Mega Scizor potentially, a bulky Scrafty. Like this team's just a little bit too passive. You could have like an AV Drampa that's still offensive to help you versus the Rotom Heat and everything like that. But I feel like a sweeping Necrozma would be really helpful because just based off the Blazekins team, they're just be getting little chip over time. It's not really going to be a wall-breaking team in this matchup. So they just have to be aware of that and try to set up Necrozma the best they can, because Photon Geyser is a busted move, people, and Necrozma can't just abuse that and straight up win a game. So for this week, I had to go for the Melbourne Rotoms, and everyone except Kraselki decided to go with that as well.
Yeah, for me personally, this was the hardest match of the week to pick because I do like some of Luke's threats. Like Primarina this is one of the best Primarina matchups I've ever seen for an offensive set. But I like the Necrozma possibilities, like you said, Photon Geyser plus Signal Beam plus Calm Mind. It looks really threatening here, especially if you put a Totemize on it. But I just like Aaron's options just slightly more for the reasons that you mentioned, like Rotom especially, Mamoswine to take care of Arrow and Lando and stuff like that. But yeah, this was definitely the hardest of the week for me to pick.
For sure, it's going to be a pretty offensive game, and I did look over the Primarina, but personally I'm just not a fan of it because it's ugly and it's a bad starter. But anyways, you can go and go to the next game.
Totally valid reasons. Yeah, let's now swap into the next one. This is going to be a fun matchup between the Atlanta Umbreons, coached by Faint Attacks, and his opponent is the Miami Dawn Fans, coached by Kyle A. So there's two main win cons on either side that I like to highlight. I'll start with the Dawn Fans. I think that Rain is better here than Sun, just because in the Sun you have like Victory Bell as your main sweeper, but it has a little bit of a hard time dealing with Komo-O unless it has like Natural Gift Fairy or something like that, which is would be pretty awesome. For sure, but I think if you just look at the options for Rain, I think that I would rather run with Rain because Kingdra with Z Outrage just has no responses. Z Outrage is going to be able to take care of Lantern extremely easily. I think AV Lantern is the most likely response for Rain to deal with Special Kingdra and especially Volcanion. Volcanion in the Rain is going to be so terrifying. Volcanion of course can run Earth Power for Lantern, but what else is Christian gonna do? That's kind of his best response. Kingdra I also like because at max speed it does outspeed a Scarf Tornadus Eye. He can't Christian can't just run Scarf Hurricane on Tornadus and Revenge Kill everything on Kyle's team. Kingdra with Z Outrage I really want to be on the lookout for. The reason I like Z Outrage, a physical set over a special set, is just because it's going to have an easier time breaking stuff like Gardevoir and that Lantern, like I said. Even if Fortress is better on the physical side, maybe you can run Waterfall and Scald to that Fortress as hard as possible. I think a really great counter that Christian could run is actually a Trick Room Gardevoir. And so Trick Room Gardevoir is going to underspeed basically anything that's going to have offensive value on Kyle's team. And just the way that it's built, that is going to be how he's going to be running most weeks. Everything is going to be very offensive. He does have the Diancie, the Torkoal, but like I already explained, I don't think Torkoal's going to come because I don't think Sun is as potent as Rain. And then there's the Diancie there, which could come as a good response to Torn and Meloetta. But Diancie just doesn't threaten Gardevoir that much offensively. And the fact that Kyle doesn't have a Steel type on his team, I think makes Gardevoir really scary. If you put 0 IVs in speed and give it a negative speed nature, it does underspeed Nidoqueen by 2 points. So unless Kyle runs a negative speed Nidoqueen, he can underspeed that and bop it extremely hard with a Psychic. In the last slot, I would probably I would probably put Taunt. And the other 3 move slots would be the Trick Room, like I mentioned, and just Hyper Voice plus Psychic. And then Taunt might be nice just so that way Cresselia can't stall out Trick Room turns with Moonlight, things like that. So those are the 2 things I picture as the biggest overall threats. There's defensive options on either side that I kind of brought up. Overall, I'm actually going to be leaning in favor of Kyle this match, just because the Gardevoir could be spooky, but I think just the overall offensive pressure from Kyle's team, the Kingdra and the Pidgeot and things like that, are going to overwhelm the Atlanta Umbreons. How did you lean in this match?
I actually decided to go with the Atlanta Umbreons here, but before I get into the reason why, I do want to apologize. I know last week I said Atlantic Umbreons a lot, and someone pointed it out to me, and I didn't even notice in my commentary. So thank you for that. Now I realize. But I went with Christian here purely because of Mega Gardevoir. That thing is terrifying here. Just if he's able just to get a Calm Mind up, it might just kind of be game later. Especially if Kyle doesn't respect it and free Calm Minds just happen out of nowhere. Because once again, when I'm looking at the Dawn Fans team, it's just really special attack heavy. So Mega Gardevoir already having nice special defensive bulk, being able to Calm Mind for free is just right there. And I feel like they can really capitalize on that. Lantern I think is going to have a big role in this game as well, and I feel like it's being used pretty well in my opinion. And AV Meloetta would even be able to help out with both of these potential Sun Sweepers once again. So I'm just kind of leaning it towards the Atlanta Umbreons for now. Whether or not it's the right play, we'll have to see.
Yeah, fair points, fair points.
Going into the next match, we have the Newcastle Needle Kings, coached by Patters, going against the South Texas Sableyes, coached by In Vivid Color. For this matchup, I immediately looked towards the Newcastle Needle Kings, and I saw a few things that kind of were on my mind. First, one of my favorite things that I want to see a lot of fire types run nowadays is Z Sunny Day, and I feel like Typhlosion would be able to destroy with this. If he's able to get a free Z Sunny Day, and it has Eruption, that damage output is going to be disgusting, and that would just be crazy. And then even then, you have Hidden Power Rock to help you versus the Noivern and the Moltres on the Stabilized team in order to get that coverage. And you can also run Solar Beam if you are afraid of Barbarical coming. I'm not necessarily sure if Barbarical could. It definitely has a decent matchup, considering there's not really that many resists, but of course there's always Tapu Koko, which can be scarfed and really be able to counter a sweeper. You can't run like a pretty bulky Escavalier just to help you to eat a hit and potentially just kill Barbarical if it's not White Herb and you catch it on its defense drops. But other way, I really feel like a Typhlosion set could be pretty fire right here and just actually really help out the Needle Kings. Also, Mega Gyarados is just absolutely terrifying. The really only counter is Bulu, but it does get Iron Head coverage for Bulu. You could also run Ice Fang if you want to, just to get the 4 times effectiveness on Noivern, which I don't feel like is that important because you already get your nice Crunch Stab versus Noivern, and even though that's neutral, that's already doing a lot of damage, and Noivern's not that bulky. So I feel like a DD Mega Gyara just to absolutely wall break for a majority of this Sableyes team, and then clean up with a Z Sunny Day Typhlosion. That would be the perfect recipe for this match in my opinion. But apart from that, for the Sableyes, Hawlucha is extremely dangerous. The really only check is a bulky Koko on the Needle King side, whether they want to do that just completely defensive with leftovers, or if they want to do slightly defensive with a Kebia Berry in order to help versus a Poison Jab on the Hawlucha, because that's the best thing they want to hit versus Koko. I feel like that's the only way they can really counter it, and even though it's a very solid counter, Koko definitely has a decent matchup fairly offensively, so being able to limit it like that is kind of unfortunate for the Needle Kings. That's where they do need to capitalize on something, once again, like Gyarados or Typhlosion. I feel like that would really just bring the team together and catch the Sableyes off guard. Scarf Needle King, though, checks pretty well versus the Needle King's team. Of course, being able to get the outspeed on Tapu Koko and Terrakion and getting off that tremendous Earth Power damage is going to be very important. You're also able to outspeed Mega Gyarados even after its D-Dance, as long as you run a speed boosting nature on Needle King. This could be very important. And then, yeah, you have a Powdon and Snorlax, which can be decently Spadef bulky to help deal with it. But as long as it's able to be a revenge killer and a very strong one at that, it's going to be very important for the South Texas Sableyes, I feel. Terrakion is actually terrifying this matchup. The only switch in is being Mew, but of course, if Terrakion somehow gets an SD for free, or if it already gets chip off on Mew, that thing's dangerous. And even if he really wanted to, I guess he could run X Scissor Z in order just to completely knock out Mew. I'm pretty sure just a Life Orb Stone Edge into X Scissor, or even just Stone Edge is already going to be doing so much to Mew. So Terrakion is a just terrifying Pokemon in general, and that physical offense is going to be kind of overwhelming. So when it comes down to this matchup, I really just had to go with the Newcastle Needle Kings, because I feel like it's going to be a pretty quick game in all honesty. I feel like Patters is going to be overwhelmed with this offense and just kind of slow down the South Texas Sableye offense when they try to potentially win with Hawlucha or something else of the sort. It's about 50-50, I'd say, between the analysts when I'm looking at this, CJ. How do you prefer taking this?
Yeah, I picked Patters as well. It was a really hard match to pick. I don't really have much to add on your comments, Hawlucha, Terrakion all being major threats. But yeah, I think this one could go either way. I'm not feeling super confident. It's a close one.
It's going to be definitely an interesting match to watch this week.
I agree. For the next match, we have the New York Marauders, coached by Mr. Talent, going up against the Toronto Togekiss, coached by the Heated Mo. So finally, yes, the Stunfisk is on the roster now for Drew's team. We accidentally included Stunfisk on the roster for Drew, even though it was not actually on his Week 2 team. It is now on his Week 3 team. It's a good thing he added it, because I think that a Raikou would have been extremely hard to deal with had the Stunfisk not been there. Raikou either outspeeds or speed ties with everything on Drew's team, so you could have brought just a choice specs set with Volt Switch and things like that. Even with the Stunfisk, though, there's a couple other Raikou sets I'm on the lookout for. Just like a CM plus like Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, especially with like Substitute, I think could be really good to try and dodge hits from like that Stunfisk. Maybe you can like two-shot it with Shadow Ball if you have enough chip. Another thing is Subtoxic Protect Raikou. There's two Pokemon that can't get toxic. One is Empoleon, which does not appreciate Thunderbolt, of course, and the other is Nihilego. Nihilego, it doesn't mind as much dealing with that Raikou. It's immune to the Toxic, and it has a lot of Spadef, so it can take the T-Bolts relatively well. But Nihilego, to me, isn't super scary versus a team that has Cobalion. There's like very few sets of Nihilego that can deal effectively with Cobalion. So Raikou, I think, could be very good for all those reasons that I mentioned. Other Pokemon on Mo's team, I think Whimsicott is actually kind of critical. There's just a couple of spooky setup options that Drew could run, such as Dragon Dance Gyarados, Calm Mind Lottie. Calm Mind Mega Audino is kind of annoying without potential Cobalion, like if Cobalion is removed for some reason. Even something cheeky like Nasty Plot Houndoom. Like, it'd just be nice to have Encore to deal with any of those potential things. So I think that could be a good option. Overall, I'm definitely leaning in favor of Mo. It's not that I don't like Drew's matchup. There could be some sneaky things here, like the like Scarf Buzzwole maybe could make something work. Not that I'm saying like you can lead Buzzwole turn 1 and click Superpower and win. That's not what I'm saying. But just like if things play out a certain way, maybe Buzzwole finds a way to win in the late game. But because again that's sort of circumstantial, I think there's just more reliable win cons on Mo's side, and I am going to be picking him. Not many people are agreeing with me. Most people are actually going in favor of Drew, which I understand. He had a very great showing versus John last week. It looks like you're a believer in Mr. Talent over there, Ben.
Oh, for sure, man. Drew could definitely be able to pull it off. You're definitely went a little bit more into the matchup than I was looking, of course, because one, you had to talk about it. But I just went with my gut feeling for Drew. And it worked out for me week 1 when I picked him. So I'm going for it again, and hopefully he'll be able to help me get a nice point here, because I feel like he's definitely got the potential. He's doing pretty well with his team. He definitely could have picked up a win versus John last week, but he still played extremely well and was only a 1-0 loss, I believe. 1-0 or 2-0. But I definitely feel like the Marauders can pull through this week.
Yeah, he brought some spicy stuff. That weakness policy, Empoleon almost ruined John.
That's why I'm going for Drew right here, because he's got that potential right now. Like, he's feeling himself as of late.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we have the Milwaukee Bewares, coached by Wolfie Glick, your reigning champion for the WBE, going up against the Free State Torcats and Duncan Can't Die. Quick shout out to Wolfie, though, winning the North American International VGC Championship recently. Give a kudos to him. Go ahead and check out his video. Like, now you actually have to check out his video, because you have to give him like double props. 1 for however he does in this matchup, and 2 for his recent success in VGC, because he's back on it and he's doing very well. So after that plug, we're going to go right back into the matchup. I'm liking the Milwaukee Bewares like offensive presence. 1, I love Gengar. 2, Fight Z Focus Blast Gengar has no switch-ins. That's all that needs to be said. Gengar is a monster, and being able just to pack Fight Z in order to like for sure knock out a potential Stoutland on switch-in that might want to come in on like of course the ghost type stab that Gengar might want to throw out, but Sands up, so then Stoutland can threaten out later on with potential Crunch or something of the sort. Gengar is able to get a Fight Z and knock that out, or the obvious Mega Tyranitar coming in and just trying to wall it, but the Fight Z able to deal with it accordingly. And this is also a battle of sand this week, folks. We have the same weather going up against one another, and we have to see how this is going to do. Whoever can build the fastest sandcastle first wins. They have to make sure they have at least 5 levels for each of them, though, to make sure it's the fanciest building they can make. But Torn-T is going to knock over the Free State Torcats sandcastle with Hurricanes this week, because I feel like a mixed Torn-T is going to be doing very well between, of course, Superpower and Hurricane. That's all it really needs in this matchup. Knockoff would also be very helpful for the potential counter in Assault Vest Vikavolt. Definitely potential there, but with Hazards up and just the constant Sandstorm chip, I feel like Vikavolt isn't going to be the best check, so Torn-T is just definitely going to have a very fun time versus the Torcats, and we all know like how much Wolfie loves his burb and how well he's going to use it, so I feel like that's going to be the major threat that people need to watch out for here. And even though Jirachi is kind of a decent switch-in, you do have the knockoff, the potential Heat Wave, but you have Excadrill and you have Gengar, which threaten this thing so importantly that just switching out Torntea and giving it more health by going into like a better check, why would you not want to do that anyways? Because even then, the Bewares have a solid like defensive check in Jirachi, and something like Mandibuzz being able to deal with it in its very reliable bulk, and as well having immunity versus Zen Headbutt, to where Jirachi's just trying to Iron Head flinch Mandibuzz at that point. But Mandibuzz is so defensively bulky that it'd be able to roost stall it and at least help out with potential foul play in order to hit the Jirachi. So this matchup is looking pretty positive for the Bewares, but I could definitely see like a Dragon Dance, Mega T-Tar, or Zydog on the Free State Torracats to be their major win con, because once you're able just to weaken up this team with potential like Sand Stoutland, you could potentially come back with the 1,000 Arrow spam, which the Bewares don't really benefit too much from, with their only grass type, of course, being Virizion, which is, yes, pretty decent, I'd say. But overall, the Bewares actually really struggle with ground type spam, with Pokemon such as Excadrill, Gengar, Gigalith, Alolan Golem, and Weezing, even though it does have the Levitate, of course it will be knocked down by 1,000 Arrows, so you'll be able to hit it twice and stuff. So that's going to be really unfortunate for the Bewares, so they have to be aware of that. Banded Zygarde could just be pretty annoying in itself, but that's another reason just to bring in max defensive Mandibuzz in order to watch out for that. And Mandibuzz could potentially just counteract them with Haze. So Mandibuzz could be important defensive mon for the Bewares, and if they play it well, I feel like their offense is just going to be easily going to be able to take over the Free State Torracats. So I had to go with the Milwaukee Bewares. What do you have to think about it, CJ?
Yeah, I'm also leaning in favor of Wolfie. Duncan had a pretty good matchup last week on paper versus Dan, but didn't quite end up working out in his favor. That Lycanroc really putting in work there in that last matchup. The only thing that makes me sad in this game is that Duosion is finally going to probably sit on the bench. It did really great in the first 2 weeks for Wolfie, but yeah, I don't think it's going to come versus a T-Tar and an Araquanid and a Vikavolt, so that's the only thing bumming me out, but I'm still picking Wolfie.
Even if he doesn't bring it, I still want him to put Duosion in the thumbnail, because Duosion's been fire in his thumbnails so far, and it's actually like beautiful. Wolfie's doing thumbnails, and they're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's just such a great tier 5 mod, such a great value pick.
For sure.
Then let's move into our next match. We only have a few left. This is going to be between the Bronze Bearticks, coached by Joey PokeAim MD, and his opponent is the Milwaukee Sawsbucks, coached by Steve, aka Magnitude. So doesn't really need to be anything too fancy from Joey's side this week, I think. You just look like at a simple SD Gallade with probably Shadow Sneak, CC, and Poison Jab, and that's looking very scary versus Steve's team. His only real response for dealing with something like that is going to be an unaware Clefable. Clefable is under a lot of pressure, though, to be a response to Crocodile and Breloom. Just because like the dark resists and fighting resists otherwise are also kind of meh. So, Clefable being the main way to deal with that, it could easily get its item knocked off by Crocodile if it's packing Shed Shell. That means it's perfect bait for Gothitelle. You remove that Clefable with Goth, and then Gallade's looking pretty clean. I also like, as a backup win con, a Toxic Orb bulk up Breloom. If you just run like a Drain Punch and Facade. What I think is going to be really cool if he chooses to run a set like that with Breloom is if he runs T-Spikes on Toxapex and then he runs Protect on Breloom. So there's no poison type on Steve's team. So the Toxic Spikes hits pretty much everything. So with your Breloom, you can click Protect, let those mons that are coming into Breloom take that extra bit of damage, while at the same time you're getting yourself like an extra 12% of health. So that's going to be helping you live hits from the likes of like Thundy and things like that. That could potentially threaten you with like HP Ice. He could also run like HP Flying on Thundurus, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think it's not as good as Gallade, but it's something to be aware of. Even if it doesn't bring that Breloom set, I do think T-Spikes are coming 100% because Steve's team is so weak to them. It's going to be especially important for something like Vaporeon, which is a little bit hard for Joey to break, except for something like that Breloom set, like I said. There's no electric type on Joey's team. The Toxic Orb Breloom is just really nice because it can then switch in freely on those Scalds and not be fearing the potential burn. On Steve's side, there's definitely still some threats. I don't want to make it seem like it's all one-sided. Just like electric coverage plus Fight Z on Thundy is basically all you need, because that Fight Z does bop Crocodile and Piloswine, which are Joey's best responses to Thundy. He could potentially run Double Dance with that, or he could just run either Agility or Nasty Plot, and then the final move slot put HP Flying like I mentioned, because that HP Flying is going to be doing the most amount of damage to Breloom and to Volcarona. So I think that that's pretty good. I do also like Make a Part in the Rain if it's packing Poison Jab. Like when Breloom is your best switch into Mega Swampert, it's not looking like a great situation. You do have the Comfy to potentially revenge kill with the Priority Giga Train. That's going to be another way to get rid of Swampert. But like that doesn't stop Swampert from basically collecting a KO anytime it comes in. So yeah, not 100% in Joey's favor, but I think probably like 80% in his favor. For that reason, I am going to be picking the Bronze Bearticks in the matchup this week. Ben, what do you think about this game?
I definitely just have to go with the Bearticks, because I am seeing, like you're mentioning, majority of the matchup looking in his favor, and Joey just being a very well-rounded and amazing coach in general. And I feel like Joey just knows way too much about Pokemon, that even though Steve brings a lot of heat sets, I feel like Joey will immediately just know how to counter it, or he already thought about it in the first place, at least in the slightest. And I would like to mention, yes, I was wrong, Volcarona doesn't get Ancient Power when I was talking about last week, but guess what? He still run with Hidden Power Rock, so I wasn't entirely wrong, okay?
You were right in spirit.
I got it right, yeah. Basically, the same like special Rock-type move with the same amount of damage. It's just a different name.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing to mention, I do hope that Steve does not get crit so much this week. It was unfortunate to see him get crit so much last week.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, you are right about that.
Next up, we have the Rochester Rhydons, coached by Iron Boffin, going up to Tennessee, Trubbish, and Deathly I Am. When I'm looking at this, I'm really liking how Blaziken can actually do something. I always like to see people use regular Blaziken well, because of course normal speed boost Blaziken and Mega Blaziken are busted and not allowed, but they are fun Pokemon. So seeing regular Blaziken being able to potentially just sweep, like Flame Charge or Agility right here is doing pretty well, just because its Fire and Fighting stabs do so well versus the Tennessee Trubbish. Really, like the only proper checks I'd say are really just Coffagrigus. That's all I'm really looking at. Like yeah, Gligar can kind of stand there and also click EQ, like at least trade. But Blaziken could potentially run mix with Hidden Power Ice if it wanted to. And I feel like it's going to be fairly easy for the Rhydons to get chip on Gligar, to where even if it wants to roost up at one point, it's not going to be at full health. It potentially comes in on Stealth Rocks, showing like Rhydon Stealth Rocks, because I feel like Rhydon's a good bring. And they just be able to potentially sweep Blaziken. Flame Charge would just be helpful if you just want to get off like chip if they're potentially stacking something, but Agility would be really helpful versus like the potential Scarf Gardevoir that could be in the back, which would be a speed tie with just a +1 Blaziken, and that also allows you potentially run an Adamant Blaziken if you want to run Agility, because that it does have potential. They would just have to watch out, of course, for the Water Shuriken Greninja. But even though Greninja is a threat, having Jolteon is just so important. Jolteon being one of the best things to always come in after Greninja, because it always outspeeds, gets off potentially just a free Volt Switch. And when the Tennessee Trubbish only have Gligar as their ground type, being 4 times weak to Hidden Power Ice is pretty annoying in all honesty. Because Jolteon's kind of almost free to click Volt Switch if it wants to, and if they like kind of overpredict or they just don't want to go Gligar, then you just switch out, and if one point Gligar does get weak, once again, you click Hidden Power Ice. Or if you want to get Blaziken perfect to work and just set up and sweep, you sack Jolteon to a Gligar EQ, but you get off Hidden Power Ice damage and do like 70% to Gligar. So the Trubbish have to be aware of like how well Jolteon's going to be able to pivot around them, but apart from that, it's going to be not too awful. They just have to play Greninja pretty well, because Gren is a big threat. I feel like it always is, because of its amazing coverage and everything. Being able to click Gunk Shot or Ice Beam versus Mega Altaria is going to be helpful. The best threat is honestly probably just Suicune when it comes down to it for Gren, but Gren can run like a I run a workup substitute bulky Gren to where Skull never breaks sub, but at the same time if he has Roar, he has got to watch out for that. Celesteel's bulk is going to be very important in this matchup as well. Dealing with Mega Altaria, yes, it can run the mix Fire Blast, of course, but Celesteela is so fat, it just doesn't care compared to like Skarmory, where it takes a lot more from a Fire Blast because of its lack in special defensive bulk. Why you can make this Aegis completely like Spadef bulky Celesteela and deal with it perfectly well. SD Weavile is also very strong for the Rhydons when they're going up against the remainder of the team when Emboar and Greninja are dropped. Mainly, of course, Gren resists the stabs and get the outspeed versus Weavile, while Embor is able to just absolutely eat both stabs for Weavile right there, so they just have to be aware of that. But Weavile does have some cleanup potential. Of course, there could always be something like Final Gambit Star Raptor in order to cheese the Celesteela, which would be pretty cool and pretty helpful to the Rhydons, because once again, that bulk is just going to be so key. So in the end, I decided to go with the Rochester Rhydons here. I had to pull for my boy Boffin, even though he let me down last week.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I feel bad because this is like the second week in a row where virtually everybody's picking against Deathly. I don't think that his team is as bad as it looks. Celesteela is a major threat. I think once he figures out how to use it best and not leave it in versus like super effective moves like the Tapu Koko last week, killing it with Gigavolt Havoc, I think that thing is going to start to do some work. So don't sleep on him yet, but I am going for Iron Boffin as well. The last game that I will be discussing is going to be between the Pittsburgh Pichus, coached by Numb Nexus, and his opponent is the New Orleans Pelipers, coached by John, aka Pokemon. I love Nexus as a creator. He has such funny videos, and he's honestly a good battler. But this team is just unfortunately not the most well-constructed team that I've seen. John, I think, has a lot of great win cons here. Basically, the only way to deal with Mega Diancie on this team is like Bullet Punch on Mega Medicham. Otherwise, just like a CM 3 attacks set with like Earth Power coverage plus stabs is going to run through everything. Like Skuntank and Doublade maybe need a little chip before they go down to Earth Power, but Diancie's so strong that I wouldn't be surprised if it could just take it out with Earth Power by itself. One other thing that could potentially be problematic for Diancie is like an Assault Vest Tangrowth, but I think Tangrowth is pressured to run Full Fist Def this week to switch into Diggersby. Just because Diggersby is such a problem for a team like Nexus's that is pretty reliant on bulk. Diggersby just is a Pokemon that doesn't have switch-ins, so you have to deal with it offensively, which Nexus is not good at. I guess Zapdos with like static is there, and that could be annoying if you're clicking return, but yeah, I just think Diggersby is really good here. Yeah, like what is the win con for Nexus even in this game? Like SD Doublade doesn't do anything. It's outsped by Diggersby. It can't hit it with Shadow Sneak, and it dies to an EQ. You have like Mega Medicham, which like yes, it's scary in every matchup, but Slowbro I'd argue is one of the best Mega Medicham counters in the game. So it has a hard time breaking that. Even like a workup Thunder Punch set isn't really going to be able to hit Slowbro in one shot. And like, yeah, you could just revenge kill it with Salamence if you have like a speed tying Salamence. That could go for, it's just a plain dragon move. It doesn't even have to go for like Z-Fly or anything to take it out. Scarf Exploud, normally a threat, but there's like the Magneton there to resist. Diancie resists. So I having a hard time figuring out what Nexus's game plan is going to be. So I'm going in favor of the New Orleans Pelipers in this game. I definitely think that they have the matchup advantage. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I had to go with the Pelipers and John here. Once again, I love Nexus. He's an hilarious dude, and I love the Weeb life. Weeb for life. But when it comes down to it, I just hate this team. I'm not a fan of it at all, and personally. His team can easily be toxic stalled. It doesn't have the best overall offense. It's got terrible speed, just everything of the sort. I'm just not that big of a fan of it. And the Pelipers are easily going to be able to capitalize on it with their great speed and their amazing sweepers, everything of the sort. You can even have just a toxic Corrosion Salazzle, literally just toxic almost anything, actually anything on the Pichu's team, and it just be annoying because they're not really going to be able to get rid of the status on all of their Pokemon, even because it's just way too passive and they're too fat. So I just feel like the Pichus aren't going to be able to deal with that in any way, shape, or form, because there's just multiple ways they're able to break apart this team.
How spicy would it be if you just run Sub, Protect, Toxic, and Taunt? So that way nothing can recover or heal Bell.
I may or may not have suggested that.
Oh, really?
In this office.
That's hilarious.
So we'll have to see about that.
We will see.
Alright, ladies and gents, for the last game for this week, we have the Minnesota Vikavolt, coached by Dan, aka Drive, going up against the LA Spice and K Cray. Looking at this, I think Mega Manectric is going to be the MVP this week for the Minnesota Vikavolt. Mega Man's just going to be able to constantly Volt Switch, and Yes, there's Garchomp, and Garchomp is an amazing ground type, but once again, like for a lot of the matches that I've mentioned today, just having your ground type 4 times a week to hit and power ice is not that good. You need another ground type or another way to deal with electric types if you're going to have a ground type like that. That's my thought process, at least for majority of the time when I'm trying to build, but they don't have that, and it's going to be a little difficult for their team in all honesty. You're also able to get reliable Intimidates off versus the Mimikyu and Garchomp as Mega Manectric, to where it really avoids in sweeping from like SD, Garchomp, or Mimikyu. Both are very scary Pokemon and potential setup. And this is also where Kieran Black just comes in and says, hi, I'm going to get a kill. Kieran Black is terrifying. It can run the Icy and just blow back Porygon 2, because Porygon 2 can be something that the Minnesota Vikings struggle to kill with if they're not able to properly Toxic it, or if they don't bring like maybe Passimian Fighting Stab or have that Z move on KB to blow it back. But overall, they're going to be able to get off a lot of chip versus the entire team with Mega Manectric Volt Switch. And if they're also able to pair that with a Alolan Persian Parting Shot, I feel like they're going to be able just to control the entire momentum in this game and have a massive advantage with that, especially if they're able to control hazards, like keeping it on K-Cray's side while keeping it off of their side. That being very important to see in this game. And when I'm trying to look at something for a K-Cray here, I feel like Mega Houndoom can do a decent amount of damage, but like Florges and Gastron are all both pretty bulky in order to help out with that. Mimikyu, I feel like SD very late game, if there's no Skarmory or something of the sort, definitely has potential, but that's very specific, and they really have to like just be aware of what's going on. And I just feel like it's really difficult for the LA Spice in this matchup, and I had to go with the Minnesota Vikings and Dan, and it looks like the majority of analysts decided to agree with me here.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the only thing that I would add is just like Mega Maw in general is always scary, so you can't quite sleep on that. It's probably the best response to Kyurem that K-Cray has, and it can just be scary in general offensively all the time. But I'm going with you. I'm picking in favor of A-Drive this week, just based on the team matchup and the records and everything. All right, well, that, I think, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap up our Week 3 analysis. We hope you guys enjoyed, once again, our in-depth look into each of the matchups, which Pokemon are going to be most critical in every game. If you guys did like this video, of course, we'd really appreciate it if you left a like down below, left a sub with WBE so you could catch all of our latest and greatest analyst content. We've got Pickems coming out every week, power rankings, weekly recaps, heat of the week, you name it. Tons of great videos. I even left a bunch out. Make sure you go down in the description below, check out all of our coaches. While you're in the description, make sure you go to the Ownage store so you can check out all of the great merch that's available for the WBE this season. We've got shirts for every team. We've got shirts with the WBE logo. Make sure you go down and click on that and see if there's anything you like. That directly supports the coaches, so that's greatly appreciated. Make sure you check out the Pixelmon server. Ben, do you have any other closing remarks you'd like to make?
Once again, I would just like to thank you all for the continued support. Like, CJ, honestly, I feel like there's no way that they break 500 likes again, right? Like, they ain't gonna do it. By the time we record again, I doubt it. They're not gonna do it. They're all gonna hit the like button right now just to prove me wrong, so it's fine. But remember, leave us supportive comments down below. We're always remembering we're trying to make this the best for you guys, so continuous feedback is always appreciated no matter what. But do not forget to look forward to the polls on Twitter, because we want to make sure you guys are incorporated into Pickems, because you guys are just doing such a great job supporting everyone in the WB, between the analysts, the coaches, and everything as a whole. We really appreciate it, and that's all we can really say, is that we just want to give back.
Fantastic. Well, that's going to do it for us. I'm Choice CJ. This has been General Tarheel on the other side of the mic here. Thank you all for watching, and until the next time, we'll see you guys later.
Deuces.